Is there a particular reason you did the pitch shift at all, or?
Oh, yes.
There's a hole. There's a hole. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea. Hey, this is Tony Ross, and welcome to the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. Just getting a few things out of the way here. Hey, there you go. So yes, welcome to the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. I am your host, Tony Ross, and this is definitely a labor of love. Thank you all for your patience. We're still figuring out a few technical issues. And also wanted to share with you, we haven't actually posted our schedule yet. So we'll be posting that later today. But I will tell you that today we're going to have a few people. We have Harmony Rigger, the Bird Brain, and Harmony, tutorial person. She's really awesome. So it was awesome chatting with her. We also have my good friend Mr. Lamont Russ, as well as Mark Simon. We're going to be talking about the schedule is going to be posted a little bit later. And a few things I did want to announce. Shout out to our sponsors. We actually have sponsors this year. So it's our second year. We have some sponsors. And I have nothing but love for both companies and have loved them for years. But we have Wacom is one of our sponsors, as well as we have my beloved Tomboom. And I swear by Tomboom, it's actually it's finally coming into its own as far as becoming an animation standard as far as the industry is concerned. So yeah, I'm pretty psyched about that. Actually, what's on my screen right now is a collab from my good friend Dan Flores that'll be happening later in the week. But we're playing around with the idea of Dan works a lot in Illustrator, and I almost exclusively doing things in Tomboom. I was like, let's do a collab. So we'll talk about how that is set up, how to bring things over, how we're building out the rig, and a couple of other things. So, oh yes, one huge thing. If you have not already, be sure to sign up on the email list. If you go to animationsummit.net, you should be able to see the email list. We'll be sending out information, updates. Believe it or not, there's still panelists coming in. So there's some going out and some coming in. And so that's kind of the tricky part about doing the schedule and trying to make sure we honor everyone's wishes with respect to whether they could make it to the summit or not. And besides that, if you sign up, we have some giveaways to do. We have, I think, daily. And I didn't tell you guys what the giveaways were. And a lot of times you might be thinking, okay, they're going to give away some, I don't know, some socks or some magnets or something. Well, not this year. This year, I'll tell you what I'll tell you what one of the major things is that we're giving away. So every day of the summit, we are giving away an annual license to Tomboom Harmony Premium, as well as an annual license to Tomboom Storyboard Pro. So again, if you haven't signed up, you might want to do that. So we're going to be pulling names, and what we'll work on is making sure that, hey, we're going to pull your name. Do you have to actually be here? No, but you might want to respond to any email we send you within 24 hours, or we just go, okay, that person's not available. We'll have to hand that to someone else. And I think 24 hours is kind of fair. So yeah. If you do enter this, make sure you check your emails. Meanwhile, so where, interesting. So, just checking my technical things going on here. If anyone is watching, I'm making sure my software is up to date here. I'm making sure everything is good. If anyone's watching, feel free to drop me a comment. Tell me where you're chiming in from. If you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and drop a comment real quick. We'd like to hear from you. Let's see if this is actually updating. So what I want to do Hey Tony, I'm glad you're doing this again. However, when I type in the URL to put my name in, it only redirects me to the stream page. Okay, let me fix that. La 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 la. Greetings from New York City. Hey, how's it going, Patricia? Okay, so I think it's weird. My see if I can get this one little thing happening here. Barry, I'll get that taken care of in a moment. Hey, Angela. Hopefully there'll be some things. There'll be some. Like I said, there'll be the thing with the summit. There is we have a lot of interviews happening, as well as there are a couple of demos and people talking about the industry and different things like that. Alrighty. Where are we at on time? 10:43. Okay. Let me see if I can fix that one little issue. All right. Going to da, 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 da. All right, so I'm going to attempt to fix something on the back end here. So one of the things I also wanted to talk about is I have, coming up a little bit later, we're going to be doing we're going to be releasing next Friday a Tomboom Harmony 21-day boot camp, and it's going to be a recorded session, but it's basically 21 lessons that take you from the very basics of just animating dots on the screen, and by the 21st lesson, it's going to have you with a fully rigged character. And this is designed for a couple of reasons. One, if you look at Tomboom Harmony, whether it's Essentials, Advanced, or Premium, you get a 21-day trial. So I thought, okay, cool. If you're going to try it out, how cool would it be that you have something to do on each one of those and get you up to speed pretty quickly? So give me 1 second. I'm just working on making sure our sign up list is still available. In case no one knows this, it's an interesting story, and I don't suggest it to anyone. The idea of the summit is my own, and so interviews, social media, uh, technical stuff, figuring out, hey, why is that going wrong? That is all usually on me. So uh, I think next year I'm probably going to have to see about doing interns. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But just juggling this, and we're going to get ready to. Since I get this one little technical thing done, we'll go ahead and pop in our first interview, and that's actually with the Bird Brain, and one of my favorite YouTube Tomboom people. So. Alrighty. Okay. So what I'm in the process of doing is I'm going to update the link so you all can actually get this. The other funny thing, what we're doing this week, and I'm being reminded of this, I am currently using my beloved Mac Mini that was purchased in 2011, and it has served us well. However, it is starting to show its age just a bit. So we're also trying to raise funds to, yeah, get that updated. So that sounds good. Let's do. Alrighty, see if this will work. All right. So, quick note in theory to Barry and to everyone else, if you're trying to actually sign up or sign up for the thing to enter our little raffle, I'm getting ready to give you a different URL, and that should work. Perfect. Okay, so let me jump back over here. Okay, so if you can see the little URL I just put on here, I just set up a link. If you go to this particular link, um, there's a sign up sheet, but there's also, it should be the YouTube video, the live stream from the YouTube video there. So you can actually sign up there. And again, that's where we'll be sending out information. For instance, the list of all the different panelists that are coming in. And yeah. Oh, speaking of, while I'm thinking about this, what the heck is this? Last year we talked about, is 2D animation dead or is it going through a revival? And for personal reasons, as well as, I don't know, it felt like it was needed to be talked about. This year we're actually doing the theme of health and mental health, especially with artists and animators. And the irony is, we had talked about doing that before everyone was on lockdown, so it's kind of coming in place. Special shout out to all of my panelists because they had the option of, if they didn't want to answer questions like that, because it is a sensitive subject. But shout out to all my panelists that were just kind of gung ho about talking about that. And a special shout out to Mr. Steven Silver, who's joining us again this year. Uh, I was inspired by a lot of the things that he would do on his channel, talking about just kind of going through mental things and working your way through it. And it was just very inspirational. So, all right. So we are going to test out, or get ready to try out, our first little thing here. Let's see. Again, first up, we're going to be playing some video from the Bird Brain. A little, if you are new to our summits, the videos or the interviews are not live. They're actually all pre-recorded, which makes it a lot easier. And we've been building these interviews probably since February was when we did our first one. Actually, was blessed to interview Kat Hudson really early. We thought we were going to do the summit in March or September, but this is probably going to be our new date, probably the first week of October. So what I'm getting ready to do now is I'm getting ready to start our first little thing here. By the way, before I go, show you a little bit of what we're planning. And make sure that's there. I have too many harmonies. Hold on. So, a little bit of what we're playing around with. Let me do Shift B. Shift B or B? B? Thank you. A little bit what we're going to be playing around with later in the week. This is a multi-layered Illustrator file. And this is done by my buddy, Mr. Dan Flores, DTM, Delta Tango Mike. Mike? I think it is. Sorry, it's been a while since I had to do those letters. So, but yeah, it's going to be kind of cool because we're going to bring all these pieces to life and do some stuff with the background and have some fun with that. My character Barry Angry is going to be making an appearance sometime this week. We shall see. And also, as I mentioned before, we're going to start letting out more information about the boot camp, and that will release next Friday. And what we're going to be doing is running a special this week, so you can grab that for like 21 bucks versus the normal 49 bucks. So hopefully that helps. And cheesy as it sounds, all proceeds will go to getting me a new computer so I can do all this stuff faster. All right. Meanwhile, let me jump back over here. I feel like the DJ. Where's my Ecamm Live? There it is. Let's go there. All right, so I'm getting ready to get started here. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with my buddy, Mr. Lamont Russ, because I don't know, some nice little icebreaker, I guess. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am here today with my good friend and talented artist, Mr. Lamont J. Russ. What's going on, buddy?
How come my name always changes in your voice depending on who you say it to? I don't even think you know how to say my name for real.
My J. Russ.
Every time, depending on who you're talking to. Oh, it's Mr. Lamont Russ. Lamont J. Russ. Oh, that's Mont Russ. Hey, Mont Russ. So, yes, this is Tony Ross talking to Mont Russ. And this is... like, what's going on, man?
What's going on, dude? This is my interview voice. This is not my training voice, not my lecture voice. This is my interview voice.
Your interview voice guy needs a character design. You know anybody that can do that?
Nope, because all the ones that I know are they suck at character design. They think they're good, but yeah.
So no 2D Animation Summit Part 3 then?
What's up, dude? Okay, seriously. Tell everybody, for those who don't know who the hell you are, tell them who you are and who and why you are and why the hell you're on my summit.
Well, I'm a well-spoken philanthropist, playboy, thought-provoking billionaire with it. Now, I consider myself to actually be a concept design artist right now. That is my strongest suit. That is what most of the jobs that I do when it comes to art go to. So I consider myself to be a concept designer specifically for environmental design and everything. So that's anything on video games, TV, film, storybooks, cartoons, whatever it is they need me to draw with environments, I'm your guy. But, I dabble in things like character designing as well and 2D animation, hence why I'm on the 2D Animation Summit. Let's see, I've been working in the industry since 2007. I started out my first job at Radical Access. I've been on things such as Squidbillies, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. I did games for like The Walking Dead, Real Housewives. So let's see what else. Archer, definitely been on Archer and back on Archer again, and a couple of other secret projects that are in the works right now for some very big studios coming out soon. I can't say anything about it right now. You know how that is. And NBA security is tight. It's tight.
By the way, and probably people have heard this mentioned a lot during the summit, and we a lot of artists throw around the word NDA. Explain what an NDA is.
It's a non-disclosure agreement. It is a 2 to 3 page contract that says if you utter a word about what it is that we are talking about or working on or anything that has to do with a project that you signed on with the company, they will ruin your life and they will find out somehow that you are talking about it. They're that good. But basically what it is, it's, in all honesty, it's just to protect the company and yourself from any legal issues. There's always in the entertainment business issues of who came up with what idea or what property or something later. I personally experienced it a long time ago when I went to Turner for the first time. I was just visiting, and I was also trying to get a job, and I was showing some of my stuff, and I saw something that looked very, very, very similar to my stuff on like a commercial or something that they had worked on. So I had the ability to go in and like sue them if I wanted to challenge them, but Turner had more money than I did, and I was like a young, dumb kid, so I was kind of like more flattered that they stole and I'm doing it in air quotes, that they stole from me. So I was kind of like more flattered that was, wow, a big giant company stole from me, and look at that. But which it maybe it was the case, maybe it wasn't the case. You do have to understand that the artists tend to think alike in certain aspects, especially when they're like given design briefs or something like that. There's a tendency for artists to think alike. So it's not unheard of that two artists from two different projects can come up with like the same idea, especially if like one project on the east coast of California is working on some sort of project that has to do with Viking mythology, and then some project on the east coast is doing a TV show or something on Viking mythology. It is very easy that the artists are going to come up with similar designs or whatever, because it's based off of like real world stuff.
Coolness.
And yeah, so it's just to protect yourself. It's to protect the company, because they don't want their stuff getting out. Everybody knows how tight-lipped Marvel is with their stuff. You've seen actors when they get questions, so what happens in the next Avengers movie? And they're like, what's the Avengers? So if you don't know, as far as being an artist, you will find out. They're not that, the contracts are not that hard. It's basically just, please do not talk about what you're working on with anybody, or share our information, or share our methods about how we do things and everything like that, because it's your breadwinner. Also, if you decide to do so and somebody finds out, you will be very easily unofficially blacklisted. I don't know how, but people find out that you talk, and when they hear that you talk, nobody wants to hire you.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Question.
Be careful. Yes.
The character on your screen, is that somebody we know? I can't remember.
That's somebody you know. That's my character. It's Russell from the 5-second rule cartoon thing that I made up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that. I thought you did one that was similar to Sean. I was trying to figure out.
Oh, great! That does look like him. Oh, I gotta go. I have got to undo that now.
Well, Sean doesn't have blue eyes, or unless in your imagination, Sean has blue eyes.
Yes, but in this recording, we said it, and you're gonna put it out live, and Sean's gonna hear it, and then he's gonna have one up on me. Okay, we are locked in a never-ending, smack-talking, lifelong battle, and you just gave him like a sniper rifle. Okay.
Like,
man, I'm gonna see it up on Facebook, and it's gonna have hearts on it. And thanks, Louis Lamont loves me and all that. Thanks, man. He's gonna put it in our multiple group chats, and watch. Someday this is gonna be the one cartoon that pops for me, and they're gonna interview Sean like, yeah, he based it all up on me.
Sean voice.
Yeah, Sean voice. Shut up, Sean.
Oh my gosh.
Shout out to my boy Sean though.
That is awesome. Okay, seriously though,
yeah.
I've been coaching, or like on and off through the years, coaching them out on Tomboom.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed about a lot of Tomboom characters is it's a beautiful thing, but it's like all these beautiful, sharp, like perfect lines. We need to animate, whether it's this character or any character, with lines that look like this, that look like it was like you just threw it together with a marker. It's not perfect. There are things that are overrunning a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that I feel like a very big part of that comes from the industry nowadays. I know from my experience, when I sit down and I'm working on a cartoon or something for a company or a client, they're like, I want it to look like this, or I want it to look like that. And you sort of get in this mindset where you're forced to draw and make things look crisp and clean. It's like, oh, I want it to look as clean as Adventure Time, kind of like, and so it starts to become like a popularity contest as far as that style. And I don't know what you would call it, but for me, it feels like it is America's take on kawaii or
Ooh,
anime.
okay, I can see that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
The one thing I hate the most about it right now, and
mhm,
this is not a slam at the current mouth that this character has,
mhm.
but the fact that everybody has the same mouth right now, and I get
Oh,
it. I get that it's an easy to do system,
yeah,
but it's like, come on, y'all. I mean,
yeah,
you could still use the exact same system, but for crying out loud, use a different mouth shape for a totally different character. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
So.
It's like, yeah, I'm looking at the Loud House and I'm like, is that the same mouth from Fairly Odd Parents? Did they license it? Like what? So also with me is I have a traditional background in I have a background in traditional 2D animation, so hand drawn animation. So it's like second nature for me to have these type of lines and stuff. Um, when I'm drawing or when I'm animating, it is definitely second nature for me to see it like this. Um, but yeah, it like I said, it all goes to what the client wants or what's popular right now, anything like that. Oh, trust me, you're gonna see in here. I got some stuff that's got all the clean lines and everything too. So I'm
Coolness.
just all right. What's going on? What's next?
All
Oh,
right.
first when we move on, it's my mama's birthday. Shout out to Miss Nora. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Now, the day we're recording this is
Uh,
totally different than the day it's going to be airing, but
okay. Well, it's the 13th of September. That's my mama's birthday. Happy birthday, mama. Shout out to you.
happy birthday, Miss Noah.
Happy birthday, Miss Nora.
Now there's there's the voice I would talk to your mama. Yeah.
There you go. See, that's what I say. It's a voice change. All right.
Okay, first
Yeah.
up, what are your thoughts on the business as far as the business of animation now
Mhm.
versus, let's say, 10 or 15 years ago? And what would you do differently if given the chance, if anything?
The if we're talking about the business side, man, I feel like the business always change. Well, I feel like the business changes once, like every time there's like some sort of big show or big game or something that comes out. Um, you know how like back in the '70s, Star Wars came out, and
Hmm.
so now everybody had to switch up how they do things, not only with film, but they even had to switch up how they do business with directors and stuff. Because George Lucas said, "Yeah, I want that money from that merchandise." And they're like, "Merchandise? All right, you can have it." You know. And then years later, nobody gets merchandising deals, and George Lucas is sitting back laughing on like a planet that we didn't know of because he bought it with Star Wars merchandise money. I mean, I really believe that man has real Ewoks. So I see that the business changes every time something big and popular and stuff like that comes out. Um, so the business changes just a little bit every single time, as far as when it comes to artists slash creators and the people with the money who can make your dreams come true. Um, Back then, you used to. When I say back then, I can say even when I first got into the business, which is even when I first got into college in '99, and then and when I started in the business in 2007, it was the era where you could take your project to like a big distribution company, like your Nickelodeon or something like that. You take it to one of these companies and you basically pitch your idea to them and hope that they say, yes, you can make this cartoon, we'll pay for it to get made. But we own all of it. So that is the biggest thing now. And I mean, back then, that was the biggest thing. And you kind of had to, what some artists would like to say, sell your soul to get your cartoon made, whereas you're working for that company to make your cartoon, which is not actually your cartoon. And if that cartoon happens to be big and pops and you know, do this thing. Your only job is you get to make it. You don't get to decide where it goes or what it does or anything like that. That's it. But that might be your way to get into the industry and get your name known and work on what it is that you want to work on yourself once you got a little power behind the name. That's how it happened back in the day. Nowadays, especially with the technology that we have and social media and everything, you almost get nothing because it's almost entirely possible for you to make an entire movie, cartoon, video game, comic, all of that stuff. You can do it by yourself. You do everything by yourself. Back then, you could do everything by yourself. Like, you know, you might be able to make a cartoon or something by yourself back then, but then you go, but I don't know how to do any kind of video editing, or I don't know how to do sound stuff or something. It's like, oh, wow, you can go to like Fiverr and pay a sound guy $5 to do, you know, to do like the soundtrack, you know, or you can pay your video editor $100 and he'll edit like all of your stuff. You know, so there are complete ways. Oh yeah, and of course stuff like crowdfunding. If the audience likes your stuff enough, they will pay for it to get made itself. And then at that point, you don't even need the major companies and all of that stuff. Same thing with the way as TV and films have evolved. Even with TV, most people watch television on their devices and everything, and you know, enter Netflix. They changed the whole television game, and so now every television station has had to step up their game and do an online streaming service. So every TV, like I saw, like PBS even has an online streaming service, and I'm like, wow, the public broadcasting station, like the free one. I was like, do I have to pay for it, or you know? But the point is that these like places like YouTube allowed you to basically have your own TV station online, and you can, it's a miniature version of what a real television company does. You produce the content, you even can choose what types of ads run on your YouTube page. You decide you know, when your content drops. You don't have necessarily any licensing rules or any, well, you have some rules, but things that you had to worry about on syndicate television, like cursing or nudity or anything like that. Yeah, you don't necessarily have to worry about it on YouTube. They're kind of loosey-goosey with that. Nobody's checking on them like they do with your regular television. Now, again, that is to say there are some rules, but the point is that you don't need the major companies like you did last time. You just need a lot of passion and a lot of motivation to do an entire project yourself, or team up with your other artist friends that you know, and y'all get some projects done. The point is, it's like you literally have no excuse to not be able to do what it is that you want to do nowadays. Back then, you did. And so, in short, what I should have said is, you know, the only limitation, the only difference is you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to your next slide or your next piece of art?
Yeah, I can go through all of these real quick. There's probably about 30 in here. You want me to like stop and talk through each one, or just?
Sure, do that, and then I'll hit you with another question.
Okay, cool. So first of all of these are just random images of characters and stuff that I've done over the years. Most of them for clients. Some of them are for myself. They're a mixture of cartoon characters and video game characters and film characters. So here we go. This is the first one from one of my personal projects called 5 Second Rules, where, you know, that game where you drop a piece of food on the floor and you have 5 seconds to pick it up.
Yeah.
I don't know who invented that, and that's like gross. But I realized that the older we get, the more nasty people get with it too. And I was like, man, we 40 years old and we still playing this 5 second rule. And I'm looking at us like, don't pick that up. That's got emphysema on it. What is wrong with you? It's like 5 second rule, dude. And I'm like, that's not how that works. I know you know that's not how it works. The rules are the rules. That's how the rules go. And I'm like, but you, no, but you know. But anyway, so thinking of stuff like that made me come up with this cartoon. And there's this kid, Russell, who he dropped a potato chip on the ground and he went to go pick the chip up before the 5-second rule was over. But his sister like grabbed his legs to try and stop him from getting it. And he picked it up and ate it at second number 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so after he picked it up at 6 seconds, he was instantly transported to this magical world that kind of resembles the Yellow Submarine environment with flying fish in the yellow sky and stuff. And he was taught by this guru, that he's going to now have some sort of magical powers to help defend the universe. And when he gets back to his world, he has powers, but the powers are random and they have a random time limit. So it can be 5 minutes, it can be 5 days, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 5 minutes and 15 seconds, it could be 5 years, it could be 5 millennium, and it could be anything. Most of the time the powers are like goofy and useless, but he finds a way to use them properly. So when he gets back home, his parents are like, both of his parents are, his mom's a journalist and his dad's a cameraman. And they are covering the story of a guy who broke into an aquarium. And the guy's name is Sumo Mo. Shout out to Maurice for giving me. See what happens when you're my friend? I take your name in your life and I turn it to a character that everybody can make fun of. So Sumo Mo breaks into the aquarium. And it turns out that Sumo Mo was a kid who ate the food like 10 seconds after it dropped. And so he has the ability to like drink water and become huge like a sumo character, but like to the size of Godzilla. And so my character, Russell, gets back with the ability to change his hands into sponges. So now every time he goes and punches Sumo Mo, it sucks the water out of him little by little while he's punching him. And, turns Sumo Mo back to like a very like action figure size of version of himself. And the cops can then arrest him.
So my question to you, do
Yes.
I need to do I need to pull that out of this interview?
No, you can let it run. Everything I put on here, I already did my copyright stuff for.
Coolness.
And besides, I can always play the video back in court if anybody wanted.
Today is September 13th.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Mama.
2020. I'm like,
so
why are you echoing? Hold on one second. Let's see.
Any echo?
Nope.
Okay, good.
All right, cool.
All right, let's keep going. So, go through some more here. This is just a character I did off of a character design challenge.
Okay.
But it eventually started evolving into a story that I wanted to work on, which is a story about this tribe that leaves their boys in these woods. When it's it's like a rite of passage, coming of age,
right,
sort of situation. So when you turn like 15, they all they leave you with is just a single sword, and they take the boys and they leave them in this woods, and it's your job to make it through the woods to the other side of the forest. And then if you can make it through, then you are a man in their eyes. What they don't tell you is that the woods that you're in, which for the moment I've just called it the Black Woods, but it is the place where all mythology of the entire world is born. So every mythical creature or every crazy story that you've ever heard of, it originated here.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, throughout every culture. And so you as a boy are forced to like deal with and live through that environment and try and survive and make it out on the other side. Um, so yeah, the environment, yeah, it's a huge forest, and like huge enough to where certain parts of it, you go to it, like the weather actually changes. So it might be snowing in one area, and then it might be like a dense jungle rainforest in another area. But it's very big, and I think in my mind, I said it would take a month if a person was to able to go straight through it, like walk straight through it and make it out the other side. But you know, you got things like Medusa in there, or La Chupacabra in there, or
Let me ask you a question. So
what's up?
Medusa Chupacabra, is the boogeyman also in there?
Sure, why not?
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. What I try to do is I actually look up those characters that are known, and of course characters that aren't known, as far as mythical creatures, and see about their backstory and their mythology, and see if I can tie that to the forest. Like, what would have this creature living or starting out in the forest, and then it's basically like it would be a backstory of that creature. So you can easily say somebody like Medusa started out as an actual snake in the forest and then evolved into a woman like Medusa. So in there, it might be a snake with snake heads, or it might be a snake with women heads. I don't know. Who knows? But the point is to take a well-known character that people recognize and, you know, give like a new spin on it. Like, how did they get to there? You know, how exactly does a minotaur become a minotaur? You know, and so you're seeing it through the eyes of this 15-year-old kid, and you also see that he might go in the forest with about 12 other boys. Maybe some are his friends, maybe some aren't, and you might have relationships that change during those times, because in situations that you put in, you might be able to trust somebody, you might not be able to trust somebody. It's Survivor for a 15-year-old with mythical creatures.
Okay.
Yep. All right, next one.
Yep.
Oh, this is from, if everybody remembers the game Contra, up, up, down, down, left, right, B, select, start. Yeah, this is from the original game Contra, and I mean the original NES version, the side scroller with, you either pick the red guy or the blue guy. You go from left to right, or sometimes you just go straight. That was their, you know, top bottom thing. But what I like to do to keep my skills sharp as a concept designer is I try to work the way that you would work if you were actually at a studio working on a real project. So I took the idea of Contra and thought about what it would be like if they either made it a real movie or like a game on the platform of a, you know, PS4 or PS5 now, or something like that. So obviously it's not going to be your traditional side scrolling pixelated thing. So I put it in like a realistic type of world, and I try to give it that type of spin on how could I explain what these characters look like from this NES game for real, especially being that they had the two characters that they had was just a very simple 8-bit pixel red character and a blue character. And it's like, okay, now I have to like develop that character for real. So in my idea of Contra, I came up with a backstory to explain all of the stuff that came out in Contra. Because I don't know if anybody remembers playing Contra, but Contra just basically stole a bunch of stuff that came out at the time, which was Aliens and Predator. And like the two guys on the cover of the game literally look like Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was just
Wow.
yeah, on the original cover art, it's like, oh, that's just Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's Sylvester Stallone, and this looked like they just put them both in the jungle. Oh, okay, I see, that's Rambo, and that's Predator. Okay, I got it. But all of the bosses and stuff that you fought, they were like aliens. They were some form of some sort of alien, and the final boss was like an exact ripoff of the Alien movie from, you know, that Ripley had to fight. It was like an exact ripoff, even like the little face hugger things. So I tried to change that up a little bit and see what it would be like to have a more realistic feel, a more original story for it. And what I came up with is the two soldiers that you play are actual soldiers, and they're going in the forest to they're down in Colombia. They're going into a forest to stop a Colombian drug lord. So they're going to his base of operations to stop all of his cocaine development farm and all that stuff. And at that time, it just so happens that a spaceship carrying multiple specimens from alien worlds crashes in that area. And now all of those specimens on that ship start to interact with the environment, and they change the environment to fit their living situation. So the different environments are based on what type of alien that it came from. So we're looking at something like, I don't know if you remember the movie Evolution.
Yes.
The meteor crashes into the ground, and
Yes.
then over a span of like a week or so, that whole environment changes to the alien environment. So I took that idea and put it on what would it look like if they did that to the jungle? What would it look like if they did that to a cave? What would it look like if they did that to the water? Also, what would it look like if they did that to like an army tank? What would cocaine look like if the alien fell on the cocaine thing? Because you know we're the drug plant. Also, what would the humans look like if they, the aliens interacted with them? And these are some of my ideas and versions of what would have happened to the soldiers if they had got caught up or stuck or interacted with the alien DNA and all of that stuff. So this also explained like where all of these enemies came from and why they were able to do this superhuman attack powers and everything. So I basically try to just watch the entire game and try to ask and answer every question, like, why are they doing this? Why is that? Why is there a giant machine in the middle of the jungle? Oh, that's not a machine. It's just the alien took all of the parts from some army tanks and some jeeps and stuff and used it as its armor to protect itself. So I try to make it more realistic. So all these are basically like the soldiers with alien DNA using the soldiers as this way to survive. Oh, you got any more questions for me right now from your questionnaire?
Yeah, I do. Here's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Not even for 25 grand would I animate or draw blah. And to be specific, that what that 25 grand is for, it's for something realistic. It's not like somebody said, do me a feature-length animated film hand drawn for 25K. Whatever they're asking you, it's realistic for that budget.
Oh, okay, I got you. Then two things. Number one, for 25K, I would not, at this level that I'm at right now. Now, if we're talking about if I was first starting in college, that's a different story or something like that. That's different. 25K, I will draw anything you want. But right now, I would not draw anything that does not further my skills or progress as an artist or an animator. So for instance, back when I was working on Squidbillies, I came in and I was animating. Shout out to Radical Access and everybody who worked on that project and everything like that. That was an awesome team. Back when I was animating Squidbillies, I remember like the first week I started and I was animating the main character, and I got notes back from the art director, and he was like, "Yeah, you animated him too much." And I'm like, "What?" It's like, there's no such thing. What do you mean? He's like, yeah, we don't need him to move. We just need one tentacle to go up and then down. And oh my God, that was so soul crushing, because I came from a school, under Lou Hertz, where you move a character so he feels realistic. Yes. If he's just sitting on the page and nothing happening, it just looks like it's still, you lose that character. And I'm sitting here and I had this little squid and he jumped and moved. Oh my gosh. He jumped and moved and everything like that. And they were like, yeah, just don't do any of that stuff. Just move one tentacle and blink his eye and that's it. And it was soul crushing. So I don't want to do any of that anymore, because I'm like, you hired a wizard to make you French fries in a microwave, right? That's what you just did. So I don't want to do anything I don't want to do anything that does not further me as a artist or animator. That's number one. And number two, I don't want to do anything political, or I guess I can say anymore. It's really hard, especially in today's climate. But the reason that I don't want to do it is because for me, art is like an escape from all that stuff.
Yes.
It's my happy place. It's my go-to. It's my thing that solves all of my problems. And if I bring those real world problems, like, you know, not saying it's not important and not saying that there's not a lot of artists that deal with politics and things like that and social justice and racial injustice, all of that. It's important and it's needed. I'm just saying for me specifically, bringing that into my world, like, kills the art for me and makes me not want to do it. And it takes away that original love and joy and passion that I had for it, because now I have to do it for this cause, or it has to be this way. And I did that one time, and I remember how horrible I felt afterwards when I did the politics, because I saw the people that paid me to do it, they loved it because they paid me to do it and I gave them what they needed. But then the people who I offended with it, that was like soul crushing. And you know, it was hurtful looking at all those comments, especially being that I didn't know very much about the political situation. I'm looking at them going, man, they used me bad. And like, the drawing was very good. And I'm like, oh my God, it's such a good drawing, but it's such a bad message. And now I look like a bad person. And it's like, this just took everything away from me. So I try to stay away from politics when it comes to any of my artwork.
I think the funniest thing my funny story about the politics, I had to stop that for the same reason, and which is tied into the other thing I was telling other question I'm going to ask you about. It just was mentally draining to work on it, and then on top of that, you can't really put it in your portfolio.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny. I gave the equivalent of politics and porn. Neither can you really put in your portfolio to get a job.
And I've done both. Whatever, man. When you're in college and you eat ramen noodles, you'll go to some dark places. What do you need me to draw? Okay, I'm cool with that. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Nope, I'm not interested in it, but I will draw it. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, if you artists or anybody listening, if you haven't had a chance to check out the Hulu TV show Woke is basically what I'm talking about right now. It's about an artist who does a cartoon, and all of these politics start to go into it. It becomes about a black and white issue, and now he ends up losing and not drawing his cartoon anymore because he's a black artist and he's drawing a cartoon, and some racial injustice stuff happened to him, and now he's seeing the world differently and seeing how people treated him, and he's like has this love-hate relationship with his art now. And I'm like, oh my God, it's me. I definitely see that is exactly why I don't want to do that stuff.
Yeah, that came. I saw the trailer. I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my gosh,
it's
really good.
And it came out on my birthday. I was like, Kia was like, happy birthday to you. I was like, I know, right?
I am sure multiple artists can relate to him and his situation when they see it. You don't even have to be a black artist. You just have to see what he goes through as an artist. And I'm like, that's what we don't want to happen to us, to where it's hard enough as an artist to get people to accept your artwork, but now you're trying to get people to accept a political message on top of accepting your artwork.
Yeah.
And then they look at it and they go, if the political message comes across, that's when we decide that your artwork's good or bad. So it's nothing to do with the art and everything to do with the message.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? I'm still just scrolling through this stuff.
No. I do have one last question.
What's up?
My last question to you would be, with respect to staying on task during projects, do you ever struggle with things like depression, anxiety, or procrastination? And if so, what helps you push through that?
I think First of all, everyone does. Yeah. And it'd be a lie if any one person said that you don't. I can't say struggle, but deal with or is faced with or anything like that. So, some people might have it and they don't struggle with it, but it's there. So every person does at some point with something. You're not going to make it through life without that type of struggle or facing that stuff. So yeah, it's happened multiple times, especially if it's on a project that I don't agree with, or I'm put in a position that I don't like to do. So then that can make you not like your job. That can put you in a funk. That could give you some anxiety. Even working at Floyd County, we worked on Archer, and Archer's kind of raunchy. If you've seen the show, it's got some really raunchy jokes and stuff in it. Some people aren't comfortable with doing that stuff. Some people aren't comfortable with animating that or drawing something that help get that raunchy joke across to people, and it gives them an uneasy feeling or anxiety, or goes against their morals or something as a person, not just as an artist, as a person. They may not want to do that. Luckily, Floyd is like, yeah, if you ever feel like that about any of this stuff, let us know, so we don't have you doing some stuff that you don't like or that you're uncomfortable with. So yeah, I've dealt with that stuff. It comes up all the time. First and foremost, I've been like creating artwork since I was in like second grade. So it's always my happy place to go to. And I grew up in a I grew up in the hood. So that's the type of environment that I was around, with everything that comes with the hood, and that violence and arguing and poverty and all of that stuff. Yeah. So it feels like the things that you're talking about, which is depression, anxiety, and all of that environment breeds that stuff. Like, it's like you're born into that stuff. That's second nature. So for me, doing the artwork was the answer to all of that stuff. And so even to this day, right now, doing artwork gets me out of that mood or helps me deal with it. That's the first step. There's multiple things, by the way. So just doing artwork, I don't even have to, like, if I just sit and just sketch or doodle in a book or a sketchbook or something. There's this one thing that I used to do where I'd either do it with a friend or I can do it by myself. Whatever problem that I'm having, I would talk about the problem while I'm like just drawing random lines. And the emotion that I have in me comes out in the lines that I'm drawing. And then I do that until I'm filling up the whole page. And it's kind of like your own therapy session. When you're done with it, you look at it and it looks like a dream catcher or a mandala or henna art, or it looks like crazy. And I'm looking at this, and it builds this memory for me where, oh, I remember what this pattern or this design was. It was when I was talking about this bad situation or that. But because it's on paper now, it kind of does this thing where it's like, it's not in my head anymore. It's on the paper. And because I'm an artist, I can deal with things on paper because, I'm trained to do that. So if I need to go back and weed through something, I won't sit and leave it in my head. I'd look at it on paper and deal with it head on, like it's a real physical thing, and fight it that way. Versus, that's why I said the hardest thing for people to do is to sit in a room by yourself with your own thoughts. You're gonna go crazy. You will. And so I just came up with an idea to deal with these thoughts as if they are a real physical thing. After that, I went even further, and I go, well, what if I can actually do something to these thoughts that would help me overcome it? Because some things you just can't change. Like, you can't necessarily change how I can't necessarily change how bad my childhood was growing up in the hood. But I can do something to help myself move past that, to make me feel like I've overcome that. And so what I do, if I'm in that state, like I do kickboxing. And so kickboxing is basically like me physically attacking the problem, even though it's not a physical problem. And physically attacking the problem, in that sense, I get stronger, obviously, because I'm doing kickboxing and it's healthy for you and all of that stuff. But it also helps my mind get in this state to where I'm like, there's the problem, and fight the problem. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. You're going to run out of air. You're going to get defeated sometimes. You're going to get knocked down, but get back up. Sometimes I'm sparring with people. And when I'm sparring with them, they are my problem that I can't actually fight in my head. And sometimes, they knock me down, but I get back up. Sometimes I knock them down. And it feels like I'm actually moving past it and accomplishing something. So you have to find multiple ways, not just one way, I think. You have to find multiple ways of things that can actually help you get through stuff. But definitely the easiest and simplest way that anybody can do is just talking. Especially if you can find somebody just to talk to. They don't even have to respond to you. Just find somebody to just listen to you. Talking is like immensely important. That's why you see like a lot of things that's happening with the political climate. People who weren't talking before are now talking to each other. And you're starting to see this bond and this relationship develop between people who normally wouldn't have one. So the talking is a huge, huge, huge step for any person. How's that? That answer it?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, thank you, sir, for taking time to join us for the summit. And I've now got to go back and edit some of this because some of the stuff that you said on like the lines kind of corresponds with something that Mark Simon was saying about how he got past some things and dealt with it. So it's pretty cool. So it's like interesting. Okay.
Yeah, man. You know me, I can go all day talking about this stuff.
Coolness. Well, this has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit with Mr.
That
Lamont
interview voice
Russ.
came back?
Shut up, shut up. Ass cabbage. Okay. So,
thanks, y'all.
Signing off. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Alrighty. So hopefully that was enjoyable. Again, it was my friend Lamont Russ. And actually, there is a second section to that. Shut up, Lamont. I am not going to do my Pookie Johnson voice just for you, sir. It's like, there is a second part to the thing where he actually goes really in depth in talking about Papa Smurf, and I'll be playing that a little bit later on. So, what I want to show you at this point is, as I mentioned, we're getting ready to release a Tomboom 21-day boot camp, and this is one of the projects. One of the projects that I wanted to talk about is because, in my opinion, a lot of times especially when you're first learning Tomboom, you don't want to get into like really, really complex things. So it's like, okay, cool. What if we just did a simple little stick dude? And this is like introducing people to working in the node view. So for instance, I literally have things like where's it at? The back thigh, back calf, and the foot, and all of these things. And trust me, shout out to Mr. Roberto Rodriguez. Oh, good grief. And anyone who's going, well, Tony, where are your pegs? Okay, cool. What I would basically do is go ahead and add a peg to this, meaning instead of just the artwork being controlled, I want to have something that can move that, and it's a little more efficient to work this way. So I'm going to do, matter of fact, I need to check my settings here to make sure. Entire screen, yes, thank you. Jump over here and see if my keystrokes are on. Yes, they are. Okay. So the deal is I would select all of these and I would do Command Shift P or Control Shift P on PC. And basically grab each one of these, and by default the pivot point for anything, whether it's a drawing or even a peg inside of Harmony, it's pretty much going to drop dead center. So I'm going to adjust these, and this is my foot. So it's going to go right down here at the foot. The calf, I'm pretty much going to be sneaky and just drop it in this blank space for its kneecap. And what I always tell people, think about Halloween skeletons, perfect timing, but Halloween skeletons that are kind of put together with those little grommets. Okay, so then this is the way that rigging would work. I would, for instance, take, where are we at? I did that backwards. Bad Tony. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's be really clear. So I have all of these guys going into one composite, into one little thing here, which isn't the best way to do things. So if you look, the difference between this arm, I have all of that going into like a little sub-composite. And if this sounds like it's Greek, trust me, this is not the first lesson I would actually give out. But this is just, again, one of the lessons that's in the 21-day boot camp. This is probably about, day 15, day 17, somewhere around there. So the idea is I have this foot and the calf and the thigh. Technically, and what's bothering me, I'm going to expand this out for a second so I can see a little bit better. What's bothering me is the order that they're in right now, so I need to readjust that. So, funny about my little spinning beach ball here, waiting for this to catch up. Again, one of the things we're doing with putting out this new tutorial is it is a 21-day boot camp, and for this week we're going to make it just 21 bucks, and all proceeds will go to getting Tony a new computer. So yeah, fun stuff. Because I love my little Mac Mini, but it is starting to show its age and need to get that fixed. Okay, so where's Mr. Node View? Hello, Mr. Node View. There you are. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup work here. I'm just going to copy this guy. Copy and paste. So what I have here is another composite. I can change the name of this. This is going to be my, I think this is going to be the back leg. Is it the back leg? Yes, back leg. All right, set it up and pass through. Looks good. Boom. All right, so little trick here. The back leg, what does it have? It has the thigh, calf, and a foot. And again, those are backwards, so it's bugging me just a wee bit. So first thing I can do, hold on my Option key, Alt on PC, drag this over, and get that thread or cable line in there. Bring in the calf. So I'm just rearranging these a bit. And this main little guy goes into the main comp. So let me untwist these guys here. Because we have some extra stuff to do. And what I want to do next is go ahead and rig these guys together. Now, I think they did something new-ish. And 20, technically I can grab these and tell them to straighten up a bit. Thank you. Makes it look like I know what I'm doing. All right, so here's the deal. With the calf and the foot, I want to make a peg. So I'll do Command P. Seriously, get over there. Make sure I'm in the right thing. Command P. Thank you. And this peg in particular, I could just copy it, but I'm just going to Put it right there. And last but not least, we'll take this peg and we'll make that a control. So if I grab my transform tool, the guy that can actually move these guys, so it's now moving that little thing there, I want to make sure my peg selection mode is on. So for instance, if I click here, it's only going to click on the peg. And the idea is I can do press simply the letter B and it moves up the hierarchy. Press the letter B again, it goes up the hierarchy. So I can bend the leg this way, do Shift B, comes down the hierarchy. Shift B again, don't be afraid to point that toe. And B and B. So yeah, that's pretty much how we can actually do that. Not to mention, we still have the ability, because this is a vector, we can actually distort this a bit. So I'm going to undo that really quick. Shift B, thank you. And B. So yeah. Last but not least, let's keep this in order a little bit. I can grab all of these guys and put them in what's called a backdrop. Insert, backdrop. Boom. That is my what? My back leg? I think so. Let's make it blue. Back leg. Something I used to do, I would always say right and left. And what I noticed is in a lot of productions, a lot of my colleagues will do like front and back, because a lot of times you're going to be flipping things. So actually that one's green. The other leg is green. And I haven't actually really rigged it up with pegs yet. So there. Alrighty. Where are we at on time? We're at 11:51. I do want to do one more video before we probably take a break for lunch. Again, the fun part about doing the summit this year, I'll let you guys in on this. Last year we actually did a paywall that said, okay, well, after the free week, then you just pay a fee and then you can actually watch the replays. The difference with this year is the replays are going to be left online. They will be on YouTube, and what will be happening in some cases, there may be an interview or two that are added in later, mainly because of time constraints, or the person I was trying to interview wasn't actually able to get there in time. Speaking of, special shout out, anybody who knows who Tony White is. Tony White is, I think he was the person I actually checked out his book. I think it was the Animator's Workbook. And I kept checking that book out constantly until I finally bought it. And then years later, I was teaching Flash and I had someone like comment going, this is what I want to learn. I'm like, why do I know that name? And so ended up connecting with him at that time, and we've been internet friends, I think, as far back as maybe MySpace, maybe? I don't know. So anyway, so Tony actually did the summit with us last year, and Tony is actually recovering. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, I think he's made it public, but he's recovering from eye surgery. And he's like, no, I want to do this. I'm like, dude, recover. So we are going to try to do something maybe about just a little, we're going to do a little short video. The summit's going to be free forever this time. Woohoo, thanks. You're welcome, Barry. Yeah, it was a lot of conversation about that. It's not limited, and it's if anything, there's going to be more room for it to develop, as it were. And it's also one of the reasons, and apologies to my panelists, because it's like, again, I was not anticipating to have a pretty much 13-hour a day work week with my day job last week. So a lot of things that I wanted to do, for instance, hey, let's put up a schedule with that says, hey, this is when everyone's coming out. So a lot of things were running behind, and because this pretty much is run by one person. So I'm catching up on a lot of those today. But yeah, it is free. And um, you'll be able to watch the interviews and different things like that and some of the demos with no problem, no login. As long as you know where to find me on YouTube, it'll be under my I think it's Tony Teach or I'm Tony Teach. It's one of those. Okay, so I'm gonna clean up this little guy here. Speaking of, I think what I would like to do. Where are we at on time? It's 11:55. All right. Need to think I'm going to go ahead and do the second part to Mr. Lamont J. Ress. And it was a cool conversation. And I like talking to Lamont as well as a couple of other of my colleagues. We'll just get in just like these really in-depth conversations. And I think that was the other weird thing with last year. I was really concerned with, okay, let's keep it limited to this time. But this year I was like, okay, well, let's approach it a different way. So believe it or not, the interview that you heard earlier with Lamont, it's been edited. There's been 30 minutes pulled out of the middle of that. And that's what I'm about to play now because it's a totally separate section where he is talking about reimagining a character. And I'll let you figure out who the character is in a bit because he'll tell you that. But I thought it was very in depth, and if any of you are thinking about doing work, if you want to see where his brain is, it's just like, yeah, it's. I hate when I look at people's work and it's like, one, I hate you. Two, now I've got to go get some work done. So yeah, going to get ready to share that. Give me one quick moment. Yes. I'm gonna jump out of here. And again, if you have not already, I'll pull this up slightly. We're going to be announcing this later, pretty much at the close of today's summit. We are doing giveaways. Yes, yes. That I thought it was hilarious too. It's like about how you over there. I do know that Lamont. I don't know if you're still on or not, but I know there was one story you told about where I think there were some girls dancing and you were so excited because they let you actually animate and instead of just having it really like sloppy and just short and stuff. So yeah, it's one of those things of there's no when especially when people go I want to animate this, it's like just do you can almost do the bare minimum. Unfortunately, you're on cool. I'm trying to figure out. There's yeah, there's a I think there's a way I can bring you in to a phone. I'll figure that out because let me figure that out while I'm playing the other thing. This is the fun thing. I was like I'm being a DJ here. Like let me give you spin this album. Now, if you wanted a Sam Cooke album, where would you go? So let me get up to this next video here. Hilarious. Okay, pop quiz.
Yeah, what's up?
I am curious because you went very in depth with what was going on with the 5 second rule, then you went in depth with what's going on with the Contra thing, and it's like, is it like how does this for you? How does this work? Do you get like a do you keep
Okay.
an idea and you go, oh, I got to jot this down, and it just keeps developing from there? Do you have a nah, that's trash. Let me not even worry about that.
I'm glad you asked that. I actually have like a little presentation. It shows my design process. You want to go through that now, and then I can show you all of this cool stuff later?
But yes, I do want to do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, let me go through that real quick because that's important. Okay, because that's important. This I can, we can scroll through and look at stuff. But it is probably a good idea that I explain to you how I do the process. Okay, so here's my process. The first thing that I do with character designing is I look at something that exists already and see if I can apply that to my design. The more things that, whether it's a cartoon character or a real character, it doesn't matter. It's just that the more things that you can have that exist in the real world, if you can apply that to your character. And when I say the real world, like if it exists, like even how the way your character is posed, if you can have him standing like a human, then he feels more realistic. Or if you're drawing a creature and you have him posing like a gorilla, that feels more realistic because people have seen and they recognize how a gorilla stands. And in their mind, they can see that image moving because they know what a gorilla looks like when it moves. So you take all of that and you apply it to your character. And at that point, what I do is, like I say, start asking questions. Ask yourself as many questions as you can about this character. This has nothing to do with drawing. This has to do with you researching and thinking and everything. This technically doesn't even have to do with art, because at this stage, I rarely draw. I just do research. So the first character I picked for this little presentation was, or the character that I picked was Papa Smurf. That's my dog, Papa Smurf. Everybody knows who he is. They've seen him before. They've seen the cartoons. They've seen the comics. You've even seen the little 3D movies that they put out and everything like that. I decided to focus on Papa Smurf from the original French Smurf comics. And so in doing so, what I did was I literally just did a Google search for Papa Smurf and went to Wikipedia, bam, and found history on Papa Smurf. History is good because for us as artists, that's what lets you know how this character was developed. Once you start reading about the history and everything, then you start to get an idea as an artist of what would this character look like. So when I started reading this, I did not know some of this stuff about Papa Smurf. I knew I highlighted the parts that I wanted to add in my character design, which, like they say in here, he's Papa Smurf, he's worried about the welfare and harmony. He's altruistic, always available to help anybody, whether Smurf or human. His great diplomatic skills, use blah, 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 all of that stuff. So it's the nice Papa Smurf, like the Papa Smurf that everybody knows about. Like he's always helpful. What I did not know is that in the original comic book, he was kind of like grumpy and like not as patient. And he said he becomes easily angry with the Smurfs for being disobedient or making mistakes. Instantly, I felt like that sounded like George Jefferson. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, And stuff like that gets your mind wondering because I'm like, okay, what if Papa Smurf was George Jefferson? And then you start adding more and more questions and more questions. Well, how would George Jefferson act as Papa Smurf? Or, how, what would he eat and all of this stuff? I also kept reading through this just to get more background. And the last thing that I found is that Papa Smurf indulges in his favorite hobby, magical chemistry or alchemy. He often makes elixirs to help the Smurfs who get into trouble. Now, if you watch the cartoon, he does the old school cartoon, like in the 80s. He does a little bit of this, try some of this Smurf berry juice or something like that, but they don't really explain it. But the point is, this history let me know that Papa Smurf is an alchemist, not a wizard. And it's very important because alchemy is something that is, somewhat real. The subject exists in the world. And then that's when you start doing your research on alchemy and elixirs and things like that, and that whole culture and everything, and different types of movies or stories or things that follow alchemy. And the first one that came to mind is The Alchemist for me. So luckily I had read that book already. So I kind of had an idea of how I wanted Papa Smurf to act as an alchemist. On top of, let's keep a little bit of both of this. I want him to be a little bit of George Jefferson, but maybe a little bit of Barney too. Maybe he has a split personality. Maybe he's like Jekyll and Hyde. But the point is the more history that I read about it, the more questions that you ask yourself, and you start to develop like a design brief. And all this is just to design one character. So after I did that, that is when I came up with how else how I wanted Papa Smurf to fit and live. So I came up with inspiration here. I wanted him to be a little bit. You remember those two characters I told you I was talking about earlier? So I wanted him to feel like Radagast and Gandalf mixed together.
Okay.
You know, Radagast is like this. He's a wizard, but not really. You see him; he makes more potions and stuff like that. So he feels more like an alchemist, and he's very much in tune with the forest. And I want that feel for Papa Smurf, but I want him to also be like Gandalf, where he is, you know, he cares about like everyone and everything. You know, he'll smoke some weed with you, but he'll sit down and like throw a lightning storm at you if he needs to. Yeah, I also grabbed this picture of alchemy because and if you really just do a Google search for alchemist or alchemy, you'll start getting these type of images or whatever. So I wanted it to have this feel, this feel within the story. I also started thinking at this stage of how his body shape or how it would look as a cartoon. Because we're for 2D animation, technically I usually go towards a more realistic feel because that's my specialty. But because it's a cartoon, I was like, okay, what would Papa Smurf look like or feel like in a cartoon? And these two guys best fit that description of he's kind of helpful. He's always willing to help somebody, just like Pacha. But he can get angry and upset just like Claus in the Claus movie, you know, and be like your worst enemy if he needs to. So again, like I'm playing on this Jekyll and Hyde type of characteristics for Papa Smurf, and I said, why don't I go ahead and stay with this whole body shape too, because it feels more like the word Papa, like a heavy set caring guy. When you say Papa, and then I use Spawn because I literally want this to be like a dark cartoon. I don't want it to be like the happy-go-lucky kids cartoon and everything like that. So that's why I chose Spawn. And it's funny because right when I chose that, I was like, okay, well, what world would I put him in? I would put him in Del Toro's world. Okay. So what if Del Toro did a cartoon on Papa Smurf? And all this comes from my questions, especially when I was looking at Pan's Labyrinth. I was like, oh, that fits. That's his environment. That's the world that he lives in. So it's kind of creepy. It's kind of mythical and magical. And because of that, it definitely has to be a dark cartoon. It has to be a little bit more serious. It can have some plucky comic relief if need be. But I feel like the character that I'm designing would fit very well in here, especially if he kind of like felt like these two characters. He doesn't have to be this grotesque, but if it was a cartoon of all of these movies, like this environment, this style, this feel, how would he look if he fit in it? Go ahead, question?
Yeah, so to me, it's almost like you're almost doing like an origin of Papa Smurf. Like, oh, it's like this is actually a Grimm's fairy tale, and then they bastardized it and made it this cartoon.
Yeah. And then I question. Yeah, I start questioning everything. Like, well, what would it look like? Well, how would Papa Smurf act now? How do I explain why he's blue? How do I explain why he's wearing the clothes that he's wearing? Which in my story, real quick, my backstory, I came up with the reason that he's blue is that he was once a wizard. Him and Gargamel were apprentices studying under Lord Bardolph or whatever the guy was that used to pop up once in a while in the Smurf cartoon. Mm-hmm. And he was like a very super powerful wizard that Gargamel used to want to be like. And so in my story, Papa Smurf and Gargamel used to be his apprentices, but Papa Smurf was very, very good at alchemy and excelled faster than Gargamel to the point to where the Lord Wizard guy wanted to use Papa Smurf and his skills of alchemy, and they ended up destroying the forest, which is how the origin of the Cursed Forest came about. The Cursed Forest is where the Smurfs lived. And so Papa Smurf then decided that he was going to use his magic or whatever for good and keep it away from those two guys. So he went to live in the Cursed Forest. And what he did was built a network of mushroom houses that reverse the curse from the forest to help the forest regrow again. So that's why they live in mushroom houses. And there's mushrooms all over the forest because they're basically there like an air filter for bad magic. And because Papa Smurf has been dipping so much into magic back and forth, it's had an effect of it slowly over the years turned his skin blue. Papa Smurf is 546 years old, so he has had more than enough time to turn his skin blue from like dispelling and sucking up bad magic. So then he himself started inventing the Smurfs to help him regrow this forest because he can't do it by himself now because it's becoming too big of a job. So that's why he started inventing Smurfs. And then after a while, 546 years, you start naming your Smurfs or giving your Smurfs personality. But they're all doing the same thing as well, which is their goal is to go out there and help the forest grow and relive. And that means that they have to suck up the bad magic, poison, or whatever. And so it turned their skin blue as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
I have all that in mind while I'm designing this character.
Now,
not necessarily in mind. I'm writing it down too, so I don't forget it. But
I was about to say you've written this down. So,
of course, yeah.
Do you ever like it? Do you ever?
Do I have what?
I was like, depending on what voice I'm going to use talking to you, because I'm talking to my. What I was thinking was, do you ever hire yourself out as a story development person? And what was trying to come out was, do you ever pimp yourself out as a story development?
You ever pimp yourself to story artist?
Well, not story art, but I'm like the whole development. Yeah.
No, not necessarily. In my mind, I think I'm terrible at stories. I don't know why. I think I'm just terrible at like actually the writing part. Like writing out, and like I'm very good with coming up with ideas, like detailed ideas, but actually making like words and sentences to help that story flow is what's harder than me. I'm working on it because I start working with actual writers now, and I tell them my ideas, and I say, how do I tell this idea in sentence form? Like what sentences and phrases and stuff help me portray this character? I can do it visually, but writing it is totally different. But no, I haven't necessarily. I guess technically I've done it. I do it when I'm doing character design or concept art for people, because there's so much stuff that I write down and so much information that I give them. They're able to push that story forward. So I guess technically, yeah, but not in any writing form.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So what's this? What's the image here?
This is. I'm actually. Middle Ages is the time period that the Smurfs lived in, and so that's what I went with. I went with as far as clothing, what type of clothing that Papa Smurf would be wearing or be introduced to, and I didn't think he would be like super rich Game of Thrones, like gold pants type of armor and all that stuff. He's like Radagast. He lives in the forest and he's an alchemist. Like he doesn't care. He's like a little bit of dirty and all of that stuff. So I just did a Google search for medieval clothing for peasants, because those are the type of people that, they walk into a restaurant and they have like the land on them when they, they always seem to be dirty. They always seem to have clothes with holes and all that stuff. Like they really lived in these clothes. And that's what I wanted Papa Smurf to have on him, because he needed to actually feel like he's 546 years old and lived in the forest for most of his life and all that stuff. So I use these clothing. And again, I use real world pictures because people associate with this. Like you automatically see this and know that this person isn't rich. He's probably on a lower class. This definitely looks like the Middle Age period, which is everyone is pretty much familiar with. And so, you kind of look at these characters and you get that, you kind of get a sense of what their world is like just by looking at their clothing. And that's what I wanted when I did Papa Smurf. I was looking at this and I'm going, oh, I like this satchel and I like this kind of cut up shirt and I like this hood. Like what is these two hoods was like his version of his little hat that he has here. So these are real world things that exist. So if you can translate this into a cartoon version, it makes your characters seem and feel more believable.
Cool.
Yeah. So you add that to, and again, still at this point, I've done no drawing. It's just all thinking and writing down ideas and, researching to see what already exists that fits that idea. Then the next thing is, before I get started, is going into body shapes, because it's for a cartoon character. So I remember I told you earlier I wanted them to be kind of heavy set, that feel like a Papa.
Right.
Yeah. This version of Papa Smurf is like the same version the way every Smurf looks. So I'm like, I don't know. Papa Smurf looks like he can be everyone's age. Like his body is like the same age as like Hefty Smurf, but the difference is he's got a beard. So I wanted to go with this heavy set feel of him being a Papa, and this is something that is seen widely throughout cartoons. This type of body shape where you got the heavy set top, but like the skinny legs or something like that.
Right, the triangle.
So, yeah. So I that shape design, kids, look that up. So I literally just went on Pinterest and did a search for character design chubby guy, or character design heavy set, or stuff like that. And then I just went down a rabbit hole of seeing, luckily Pinterest algorithm does that creepy thing where I look for one image and they go, oh, here's 3,000 other images that's very similar to what you're looking for. And it did the research for me. So yeah, use all the tools that you can to help you out. And again, still at this point, even though I didn't draw any of these things, but I can look at this as an artist and I can see this works, this works, this works, this doesn't work, this works. I can see what works and everything, what doesn't work before I even start my drawing. And that cuts down the amount of time that you have to do character development to get to what you want to get done. Depends on if you are checking yourself or if an art director is checking you. So if I'm giving it to a client or art director, I can show them these and say, this is kind of like what I was going to go for when I'm developing the character. So they understand which direction that you're going in, and you don't waste any time or money, trying to make drawings and trying to figure out what they want while you're doing the drawing, because that's just going to frustrate both of you. And then like your client or your art director or whatever, and they say, okay, well, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. And you'll basically take these three and start designing your character based off of these three shapes, because that's what they like and that's what they're looking for. So you try to go that route with doing that. So after that happened, that's when I start, I make a little list of my notes. And here are my notes, which is basically everything that we just talked about. I want him to have a personality like Gandalf and Radagast. He moves like Pacha or Claus. It's going to be a 2D animation, dark like Spawn. Probably not as bloody, but definitely like a dark cartoon. He's an alchemist. He's not a wizard. So I have to make sure that anything that I draw him doing magically doesn't look like a wizard's doing it. So yeah, like even with stuff like that, I would look up like a chemist, like a real world chemist, and maybe do a Google search for a chemist and look at the poses that they're put in and apply that pose to my character, because it'll make him look like an alchemist. Also, Del Toro world, but animated. So I have an idea of the style that he needs to fit in. And of course, the time period is the medieval time period. So these are my notes that I either keep in my head or I keep like right next to me when I'm designing, so I don't forget. Because it's easy for artists to stray off the path when they're making something and it starts feeling like their own design instead of what the design brief is supposed to be. Okay. And so I started doing some sketches. The first one that I came, no, it's not the first one. It's just a bunch I did. Here they are. Bunch of different ideas of Papa Smurf and how I would have him look if he was in the Del Toro world, but a cartoon version. I definitely love these big black eyes that the fairies and stuff tend to have in Del Toro movies and things. It makes him feel like that little sprite or fairy, like in the comics, he's supposed to be 3 apples high. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, so he's like a small cat or kitten or something like that. And so having these big black eyes kind of associates with him being like what the fairies look like in Del Toro's world and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm just trying out different, like even at one point I tried, okay, well, what if he's like a traveling vagabond and he has all of his alchemy magic stuff in his backpack with him, And it's like, oh, he's this old man or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's not Papa Smurf though. That's Grandpa Smurf. And again, even this design was straying away from the design brief that I created for myself.
Right.
But I put it in there just in case to see what it would look like. Test it out. Some versions of him, I have him looking more like a human shape. Some versions of him, I have him looking more of like a muscular body build. And some of them, he looks a bit more like Santa Claus, like a bit more fat and tubby. But after a while, when I'm drawing, I start seeing the face. I start feeling it out. And that's when you get to things like this. I'm like, okay, that's definitely what I want. And so let's move forward from that. Also, to help myself out, I drew some of the Smurfs. I wanted to see what they would look like and see how they felt. And to me, probably these versions right here is basically what I felt like the Smurfs would be in the Del Toro cartoon universe of the Smurfs. So this also, even though I'm not supposed to draw the Smurfs, I'm only supposed to draw Papa Smurfs, but this still helps me get a feel for his character. Like I started liking how I did these arms, how they kind of had these fat forearms and little gummy bear fingers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, what if I apply that to Papa Smurf as well? You know, same thing like that. And then also like, how am I going to distinguish different Smurfs from each other? Or how am I going to tell boy from girl? Or, you know, are they boys or are they girls? Is it like a transgender Smurf? Do they have any actual genitalia, being that they're like magical creatures and the only thing they need to do is suck up bad magic in the world? So they maybe not have any use for that. So then my mind started to wander on this and I had to pull myself back because I was like, I want to design like every Smurf now. Yeah, I was like, yeah, and I started straying away. It's like Papa Smurf, got to stay on task here. So, but this is helpful, and this is stuff that you show to your art director or your client, and they look at this stuff and they go, "Oh my God!" Like he gave me way more to work with than I asked for, and that makes them want to continue working with you because you can take their one-line idea and just blow it up into like a full encyclopedia.
Okay.
And that goes towards the full project and helping out. And so, Papa Smurf.
Nice.
So there's my Papa Smurf. I did 3 different versions of what the cartoon version would look like. In fact, I don't know. Once I got finished with them, I didn't think any of these fit what I needed to be. I thought it needed to be just a little bit more darker as far as, you know, being in the Del Toro world, but I thought this was a good start. And I thought this was a nice variation of the 3. I actually used colors when I was picking the colors. I used the original Papa Smurf color, you know, to see how that felt from the cartoons. Then I used the Papa Smurf colors from the comics. And then I actually used the color scheme from Del Toro films to do this one.
Okay.
So these color schemes, like, you know, if we wanted to make it more of a dark thing and the Del Toro feel, you might have to actually lose his bright blueberry color to make it feel a little bit more realistic. And because it's supposed to feel a little bit more realistic, I left his kind of like human body for this one. And this pose, like even this pose is an actual pose I found of a chemist. You can do a Google search for a chemist, and this is what I saw for one of the poses. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect. Let's apply that to him so he looks and feel like standing like a human and acting like a chemist, and has that body shape, but he has the color scheme that you get from a Del Toro film.
Very cool.
Yeah. Same thing with these. It's just the smaller variations. He's a little more hefty here. He's got like arm hair, which, by the way, I took the arm hair out later on because I realized if he's an alchemist, he's probably burnt all of his hair off by now. So, yeah, I was like, but what if he had like all these chemical stains and stuff, and that's why you have like little dots and little spots and stuff here? What if he had like chemical burns? Even his feet is a little dark from like walking around on the ground all the time and not wearing shoes. Or maybe he even has like chemical stains and stuff because Papa Smurf ain't afraid to dip his foot into like a poisonous pond to test it out. See, oh yeah, that is poison. So It's just and from here, you just get an idea, and then you either stick with one of these and develop it more, or you either stick with this and go, yeah, that's it, that's what I want, or you develop it more after this point. The point is that from this stage, the process that I just showed you continues. I'll take this character and I'll start asking the same questions. Okay, well, how old is he? Does he look that old? How does he move? What other character or person moves like that? What type of alchemy does he does? Literally, where did these pants come from, or what's it made from? Is it potato sack material, or is it actual clothing? Like I said, as you see, like this shirt came from that medieval image that I had. Right. This came from that hat that I was telling you about. This is that satchel that guy was wearing. So these are real world items that I put onto the character, and he feels more realistic because of that. Even the pants, I was like, what does Bruce Banner look like once he turns into the Hulk and he rips his pants? And like, it's subtle, but people have seen that before. So that makes this like realistic. Okay. Because in the real world, you sit there and look at, there's no way he could have got those calves into those pants without them ripping like that, unless these are like jeggings. And they didn't have jeggings back in the Middle Ages, Lamont. You know, so I literally go that deep in the thought process to try and explain everything that's happening with the character or whatever. And some things you do because, you know, it just looks cool. And you know, you just do that, it just looks cool. And so that's my Papa Smurf. But you know me, I had to do extra stuff. So I also went, if I was designing this for a movie or video game, what would Gargamel look like? That's Gargamel and Azrael from the cartoon, and this is basically my version. Gargamel and Azrael.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I said it was going to be dark. So he looks like he could fit in a Del Toro movie or something like that. So that's my version of Gargamel. Also, because I feel like I'm a concept environment artist, I did an environment. That's what the Smurf Village would look like to me. So it still has that Del Toro feel and everything. That kind of, it's kind of spooky and magical at the same time. This is actually done before I even developed what would Papa Smurf and the Smurfs look like. But even at the beginning, I still had that feel of Papa Smurf needs to actually feel like a Papa in comparison to the other Smurfs.
Right.
And so that's why I have him feeling more like a big, heavy set guy. Like he's like their actual Papa. Like, you know, like 15 Smurfs can like jump on him and do like a bear hug, and he still would be able to walk without any issues.
Every time I see this stuff, man, it's like I immediately go multiplane. And especially now with things like Unreal Engine and stuff, it's like, dude, we got to do this.
We got to do this. Oh man, maybe I'll give you this one, Tony. You should play with it or something. And then, of course,
ain't nothing but a word.
A little bit further for me, developing the mushroom houses and actually how they would look realistically. So I literally went and watched documentaries, probably about 5 or 6 documentaries on mushrooms, period. And how they grow and where they grew. Like I didn't even know at the time before I started watching that they have a whole network of roots that go down into trees and connect to other patches of mushrooms like a mile away or something. Like that's how big they're. Yeah, I did not know that. And I was like, oh my God, that is perfect because that is how Papa Smurf filters he's got a whole filtration system in the forest, and it actually really exists. So I was like, yeah, these mushroom houses, they live in them, but they also act as a whole filter everywhere. So the Smurfs just go throughout the forest growing mushroom houses. And because of the time period, you know, the Middle Ages and everything, that is the era that I was looking for. So all of these is actual architecture from that time period. Some of it is kind of like a Belgian architecture because the artist is originally his name's Peo, or at least that's the name he goes by, the pseudonym he goes by, because he's Belgian. So I even looked up some Belgian architecture that kind of influenced that as well. So, you know, this is like a little bit of your traditional European architecture and everything, but added to these mushrooms. So it's a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of real world mixed together. And all of this makes it feel believable because you've seen this before. You've seen these mushrooms. You've seen this type of house before. And combining it together makes it look like, okay, I get it. I understand it. And that makes sense how this triangle would fit on this type of mushroom because this mushroom is almost like a triangular shape.
Nice.
Yeah. So now I can finish going through my characters if you want to. And this will be a lot quicker now that you've known the process. But feel free to ask any questions. I'll just briefly go over it now because we have that stuff.
Alrighty. So we are now on lunch. We're about to take lunch. When we get back, we'll be taking a look at the interview I got to do with my good friend Mr. Mark Simon and talking about some board stuff as well as talking about his latest project or his latest book that is out. And we'll do a little more Tomboom stuff. So I am going to, because of I think the limitations of the software, I am going to stop this particular stream, and we'll set up the URL so you should be able to jump right back in by logging into animationsummit.net, and it should bring up the new stream. But I think it cuts off at 3 hours, so we'll be doing that shortly. So yeah. So let's go ahead. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and shut this off currently, and see you all back in an hour. Enjoy your lunch. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, saying see you in an hour.